They ran her out of town for teaching the wrong children. Clara Vance stood in the dusty street of Red Hollow, 25 years old and already finished. Behind her, angry voices. Ahead, nothing but open land that didn't care if she lived or died. She'd committed the unforgivable sin, putting Apache children and white children in the same room, handing them the same books, treating them like they were equal. The town council called it dangerous, reckless, a threat to everything they'd built. She called it teaching. Now she was walking away with a broken wagon, a crate of books, and a choice: disappear or prove them all wrong. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far this story travels. The wheel gave out 3 miles past the town limit. Clara heard the crack first, sharp as a gunshot in the silence, then felt the wagon lurch sideways. She pulled the reins hard, and the mare whinnied, confused. The whole rig tilted, books sliding across the bed, chalk dust rising in a pale cloud. Easy, Clara said, though she wasn't sure if she was talking to the horse or herself. She climbed down. The rear wheel had split clean through, spokes jutting out like broken ribs. She crouched beside it, ran her fingers along the fracture. No fixing this. Not out here. Not without tools she didn't have. The sun was already past its peak, dropping toward the hills in the west. She'd left Red Hollow just after noon, and now the afternoon was bleeding away. She looked back toward town, nothing but heat shimmer and distance. Looked ahead, more of the same. She wasn't going back. Clara unhitched the mare and tied her to a scraggly mesquite tree. Then she started unloading. Books first. She stacked them carefully on a flat rock. McGuffey readers, a worn copy of Ivanhoe, a grammar primer with a cracked spine. Then her slate board, the box of chalk, her bedroll, a canteen that was already half empty. Everything she owned fit in 2 piles. She sat on the rock and took a drink. The water was warm and tasted like metal. Around her, the land stretched out in all directions. Red dirt, scrub brush, scattered juniper. Beautiful in a way that didn't care about you. The kind of beauty that would watch you die and not blink. Clara closed her eyes. She could still hear the voices from this morning. "You don't know what you're doing," Mayor Hutchins had said. He'd stood in front of the schoolhouse with his arms crossed, flanked by 2 other council members. "This isn't charity, Miss Vance. It's foolishness." "They're children," Clara had said. "They want to learn. They're Apache. They're children." Hutchins had stepped closer, lowering his voice like he was doing her a favor. "You think you're helping, but you're making it worse. For everyone. Those families don't trust us, and we don't trust them. You put their kids in a room with ours, someone's going to get hurt. No one's gotten hurt. Yet." He'd pointed toward the hills. "There's still people out there who remember what happened. On both sides. You stir that up, you won't like what comes next." Claire had looked at him. This man who'd probably never spoken to an Apache in his life, who made decisions about people he'd never met, and felt something harden in her chest. "I'm not stirring anything up," she'd said. "I'm teaching." "Not here, you're not." They'd given her until sundown to leave. She'd left at noon. Now she was sitting on a rock in the middle of nowhere with a broken wagon and no plan. Clara laughed, a short, bitter sound that got swallowed by the wind. This was what defiance got you. This was what principle looked like when it hit the real world. She was still sitting there when she heard the footsteps. Not one set. Several. Light, careful, coming from the west where the land rose into low hills. Clara stood slowly, shading her eyes. She couldn't see anyone yet, but she could feel them, the way you feel eyes on you in an empty room. Then they appeared. 3 children. Maybe 4. One was smaller, half hidden behind the others. They moved down the hillside in a loose line, watching her. Apache children. The oldest looked about 12, a girl with long dark hair and a blue calico dress that was too big for her. Next to her, a boy around 10, barefoot, wearing cotton trousers and a shirt that might have been white once. The smallest one, maybe 6, clutched the boy's hand. They stopped about 20 feet away. Clara didn't move. She'd learned over the past few months that the first move mattered. You rushed, you scared them. You spoke too loud, you scared them. You smiled too much, you scared them. Everything scared them, because everything in their short lives had taught them to be scared. So she just stood there, hands at her sides, and waited. The girl said something in Apache. Clara didn't speak the language, but she understood the tone. A question, cautious, testing. "My wagon broke," Clara said quietly. She gestured toward the tilted rig. "I'm stuck." The girl translated for the others. The boy stepped forward slightly, examining the broken wheel from a distance. He said something. The girl nodded. "He says it's finished," the girl said in English. Her voice was careful, each word placed precisely. "You need a new one." "I know," Clara said. "I don't have a new one." The children looked at each other. Then the girl pointed past Clara toward the south. "Town is back there." "I'm not going back to town." "Why?" Clara hesitated. "How did you explain it? How did you tell a 12-year-old girl that you'd been thrown out for teaching her?" "They didn't want me there anymore," she said finally. The girl studied her. "Because you taught us." It wasn't a question. "Yes," Clara said. Silence. The wind picked up, rattling through the mesquite. The smallest child, a boy, Clara saw now, peeked out from behind his brother, staring at the stack of books. The older boy said something sharp. The girl shook her head, answered in Apache. They argued briefly, voices low but tense. Then the girl turned back to Clara. "You have books," she said. "I do." "Can we—" She stopped, glancing at the boys. The older one was frowning. "Can we see them?" Clara looked at the stack on the rock, then at the children. Their faces were careful, guarded, but underneath she saw something else. Hunger. Not for food, for what the books represented. She'd seen it before, in the few weeks she'd been allowed to teach them. That look when they figured out what reading meant, that it wasn't magic, that they could do it too. "You can see them," Clara said. "Come on." The girl translated. The older boy shook his head, said something firm, but the little one was already moving, pulling free from his brother's grip and walking toward Clara with the single-minded determination of a 6-year-old who'd made up his mind. The girl followed, then reluctantly, the boy. They gathered around the rock. Clara picked up the McGuffey reader and opened it to the first page. The little boy leaned in so close his nose almost touched the paper. "You remember this one?" Clara asked the girl. She nodded. "A is for apple." "That's right." Clara turned the page. "B is for ball," the girl said. Then, without prompting, she read the next line. "The ball is red." The older boy was watching now, arms crossed, but his eyes were on the book. Clara flipped to a page with a picture, a horse in a field, a boy standing beside it. The little one pointed and said something in Apache. "He wants to know the words," the girl said. Clara pointed to each word as she read. "The boy stands by the horse." She looked at the little one. "You want to try?" He shook his head, suddenly shy. "That's okay." She turned another page. "What about this one?" They stayed like that for maybe 20 minutes, the four of them huddled over a stack of books in the middle of nowhere. Clara read, the girl translated, the boys listened. Eventually, the older boy sat down, cross-legged in the dirt, still pretending he wasn't interested but leaning in to see the pictures. The sun dropped lower. The air started to cool. Finally, the girl closed the book she'd been holding. "We have to go," she said. "Before dark." Clara nodded. "Thank you for stopping." "What will you do?" the girl asked. "With the wagon broken?" "I don't know yet." The girl looked at the boys, then back at Clara. She seemed to be deciding something. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter. "There's a man. He has land near here. Big house. He might help." "He might not," the older boy said in English. His first words. They came out hard, suspicious. "He might," the girl insisted. She looked at Clara. "His name is Cole Rayner. His land starts past those trees." She pointed east, where a line of cottonwoods marked what was probably a creek. "Maybe 1 mile. He has tools. A wagon." "Will he talk to me?" Clara asked. The boy snorted. "He doesn't talk to anyone." "He talks to you," the girl said. "That's different." Clara looked between them. "You know him?" Our father works his land sometimes, the girl said. He's... She searched for the word. He's fair. He pays. He doesn't cheat. But he doesn't like people, the boy added. He doesn't trust people, the girl corrected. That's different. The little boy tugged on his sister's sleeve, said something urgent. She nodded. We have to go, she said again. You should try. The man, Cole Rayner. You should ask him. I will, Clara said. Thank you. They started to leave, the little boy leading the way back toward the hills. Then the girl stopped and turned around. Miss Vance? She said. Clara blinked. You remember my name. You remembered ours. The girl smiled, quick and small. I'm Nina. That's my brother Thomas. The little one is Samuel. It's good to see you, Nina. It's good to see you too. Nina hesitated. I'm sorry they made you leave. I'm not, Clara said. Not if I can keep teaching. Nina looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded, turned, and followed her brothers up the hill. Clara watched them disappear over the ridge. Then she looked toward the cottonwoods. The sun was touching the horizon when Clara reached the creek. She'd loaded what she could carry into a canvas sack, 2 books, the chalk, her canteen, and left the rest with the wagon. The mare was tied and hobbled. She'd come back for everything tomorrow, assuming she survived the night. The cottonwoods grew thick along the water, their leaves rattling in the breeze. Clara followed the creek east, boots crunching on dry grass and gravel. The land here was different than around Red Hollow, greener, more sheltered. Someone had worked it. She could see old irrigation channels, patches where the brush had been cleared. Then she saw the house. It sat on a rise above the creek, a solid structure of adobe and timber with a wide porch and a shingled roof. Corrals spread out behind it, and beyond those, fields that had been planted and harvested. Neat, organized. The kind of place that didn't happen by accident. Clara stopped at the edge of the clearing. No smoke from the chimney. Sit. No horses in the corral. Maybe no one was home. Then the door opened. The man who stepped out was tall, maybe 30, with dark hair that needed cutting and a face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile. He wore work clothes, canvas trousers, a faded blue shirt, boots that were scuffed but well made. He didn't say anything, just stood there on the porch, one hand resting on the post, watching her. Clara made herself walk forward. Mr. Rayner? She called. No answer. She got closer. Are you Cole Rayner? Depends on who's asking. His voice was rough, like he didn't use it much. My name is Clara Vance. I was the teacher in Red Hollow. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite recognition. More like acknowledgement that he'd heard of her. Long way from town. My wagon broke down about a mile west of here. Clara stopped at the base of the porch steps. I need help. Help costs. I can pay. He looked at her canvas sack, her dusty dress, her empty hands. With what? Clara felt heat rise in her face. I have some money, not much, but how much? $3. He almost laughed. Almost. $3 won't fix a wagon wheel. Then I'll work it off. Now he did look surprised. Work. I can cook, clean, I can read and write and do figures, I don't need a teacher. I didn't say I'd teach. I said I'd work. Cole Rayner studied her for a long moment. Then he came down the steps, moving past her toward the corral. You got the wagon with you? No, I left it where it broke, with my horse. And you walked here in the dark. It's not dark yet. Close enough. He opened the corral gate, let out a bay gelding, and started saddling it. His movements were efficient, practiced. Where exactly? West, like I said, near a big mesquite tree by a red rock outcropping. He nodded, tightened the cinch. I know it. You'll help? I'll look. He swung up into the saddle, then glanced down at her. You coming, or are you going to stand there? Clara looked at the horse, then at him. I don't have a horse. You can walk back in the dark, or you can ride double. Your choice. She hesitated only a second. Then she stepped forward. Cole reached down and she took his hand, calloused, strong, and let him pull her up behind the saddle. She settled awkwardly, trying to figure out where to hold on. You fall off. I'm not coming back for you, he said. Clara grabbed onto his belt. I won't fall. He clicked his tongue, and the horse moved out at a steady trot. They didn't talk. The ride took maybe 15 minutes, the horse picking its way through the darkening landscape with the sure-footedness of an animal that knew its territory. Clara held on, acutely aware of the warmth of Cole's back through his shirt, the smell of horse and dust and sweat. When they reached the wagon, he reined in and helped her down. Then he dismounted and crouched by the broken wheel, running his hand along the split wood just like she had. It's finished, he said. I know. You got a spare? No. He stood looking at the wagon, then at the stack of books and supplies. This everything you own? Yes. Books and chalk. And a bedroll. And some clothes. He shook his head, not quite mocking, more like he couldn't figure her out. They ran you out for teaching Apache kids. It wasn't a question, but Clara answered anyway. Yes. And you're out here with nothing but books. The books are important. More important than food? Shelter? Right now, yes. Cole looked at her then, really looked at her, and Clara made herself meet his eyes. They were dark, hard to read in the fading light. She couldn't tell if he thought she was brave or stupid. Maybe both. I can't fix this wheel, he said finally. I can give you a ride to the next town if you want. Las Cruces, maybe. You could catch a stage there. I don't want to go to the next town. Then what do you want? Clara took a breath. I want to stay. I want to keep teaching. Teaching who? There's no school out here. I'll build one. He stared at her. Then he laughed. A short, surprised sound. You'll build a school. Yes. With what? You got $3 and a stack of books. I'll figure it out. And people are just going to let you, after they ran you out of Red Hollow? Maybe not, Clara admitted, but I'm going to try anyway. The wind picked up, colder now that the sun was gone. Cole's horse shifted, ears flicking. Clara wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware of how thin her dress was, how unprepared she was for a night in the open. Cole saw it too. His jaw tightened. You can't stay here, he said. You'll freeze. I have a bedroll. Not good enough. He moved toward his horse, gathered the reins. You can stay at my place tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do with your wagon. I can't pay you. I know. Then why? Because leaving you out here to die isn't going to sit well with me. He mounted up, then offered his hand again. Come on. Clara hesitated. She didn't know this man, didn't know if she could trust him, but the alternative was a cold night alone with coyotes, and who knew what else. She took his hand. Cole's house was warm. That was the first thing Clara noticed when they walked in, the heat from the banked fire and the stone hearth, the way it pushed back the night chill. The second thing was how sparse it was. A table with 2 chairs, a narrow bed in the corner, shelves with tin plates and cups. No pictures, no decoration, nothing that said a person lived here beyond the bare fact of survival. Cole lit a lamp and set it on the table. You hungry? A little. He pulled bread and dried meat from a cupboard, set them out with a jar of something that might have been preserves. Then he poured water from a pitcher into 2 cups. Clara sat. She was exhausted, bone-deep tired in a way she hadn't let herself feel until now. Her hands shook slightly as she picked up the bread. They ate in silence. Cole watched her the way he might watch a stray dog that wandered into his yard, wary, waiting to see if it would bite. Finally he said, You really think you can build a school out here? Clara swallowed. I have to try. Why? Because those children deserve a chance. They got families. Those families can teach them. Not reading, not writing, not... She stopped, searching for the right words. Not the things they need to survive in this world. This world doesn't want them to survive. I know, Cole leaned back in his chair. So you're going to save them. I'm not trying to save anyone, Clara said. I'm trying to teach them. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. She met his eyes. Saving someone means you think they're broken. Teaching means you think they're capable. He considered that. And you think Apache kids are capable. I know they are. I've seen it. Red Hollow didn't agree. Red Hollow is afraid. Of what? Change, Clara said. Equality. The idea that maybe we're not as different as we pretend to be. Cole shook his head. You talk like that, you're going to get worse than run out of town. Probably. And you're fine with that. No, Clara admitted. I'm terrified. But I'm more terrified of doing nothing. Silence settled between them. The fire popped. Outside, a coyote howled, distant, mournful. You can sleep in the bed, Cole said finally. I'll take the floor. I can't. You can. He stood, started gathering blankets from a chest. Tomorrow, I'll see about your wagon. After that, you're on your own. Thank you. He didn't answer, just spread the blankets on the floor near the fire and lay down with his back to her. Clara sat there for a while, watching the flames. Then she moved to the bed, pulled off her boots, and lay down fully clothed. The mattress was thin but clean. She could hear Cole breathing across the room, slow and steady. She closed her eyes, but sleep didn't come. Instead, she thought about Nina, Thomas, and Samuel, about their faces when they'd looked at the books, about the hunger there, the same hunger she'd seen in dozens of students over the years, the need to know, to understand, to matter. Red Hollow had tried to kill that hunger. Clara was going to feed it instead, even if it killed her. She woke to the smell of coffee. Gray light filtered through the window. Cole was at the stove, pouring hot water through grounds in a tin pot. He glanced at her when she sat up, then went back to what he was doing. There's bread left from last night, he said. Help yourself. Clara's whole body ached. She moved to the table, poured herself coffee from the pot he set down. It was strong enough to strip paint, but it was hot, and that was enough. I'm going to look at your wagon, Cole said. See if I can salvage the wheel, or if you need a new one. And if I need a new one? Then you need a new one. Clara wrapped her hands around the cup. Mr. Rayner. Cole. Cole. She took a breath. If I'm going to build a school out here, I'm going to need land. Not much. Just enough for a small building, maybe a well. He looked at her over his coffee. You're serious about this? Yes. You know how to build anything? No, but I can learn. You got tools? No. Lumber? No. So you got nothing but a plan? Yes. Cole drank his coffee, eyes distant. There's a spot, he said slowly. North end of my property, near the creek. Flat ground, some trees for shade. I don't use it. Clara's heart jumped. You'd let me use it? Say that. Then what are you saying? He set down his cup. I'm saying if someone were to build something there without asking, I probably wouldn't notice for a while. And if I did notice, I probably wouldn't care enough to do anything about it. Clara stared at him. You'd let me squat on your land. I'm saying I wouldn't stop you. Why? Because I don't like waste, Cole said, and you're wasting yourself fighting a fight you can't win. But if you're stupid enough to try anyway, at least you won't freeze to death doing it. It wasn't kindness. Not exactly. But it was something. Thank you, Clara said. Don't thank me yet. You're going to need more than land. You're going to need help. I'll manage. No, you won't. He stood, pulled on his coat. But that's your problem. Come on. Let's go look at that wheel. They rode out together again, Clara clinging to his belt as the horse picked its way through the morning mist. When they reached the wagon, Cole dismounted and spent a long time examining the damage. Finally, he straightened. I can fix it, he said. Take me a day, maybe 2. I got spare lumber back at the house. I can't pay you. I know. Then why? Because I'm already involved, he said, and there was something like irritation in his voice. Soon as I let you sleep in my house, I got involved, so I might as well finish what I started. Clara didn't know what to say to that. Cole unhitched her mare, tied her to his saddle. I'll take your horse back, feed her, get started on the wheel. You stay here, watch your stuff. I'll be back before dark. You don't have to. I know I don't. He mounted up. But I'm going to anyway. Try not to get yourself killed while I'm gone. He rode off before she could respond. Clara stood beside the broken wagon, watching him disappear into the distance. Then she looked at her stack of books, her slate board, her chalk. Everything she owned, everything she needed. She sat down and started planning. By the time Cole came back that evening, pulling a small cart loaded with tools and lumber, Clara had sketched out a rough design for the school. One room, maybe 12 by 15, a door, 2 windows, a fireplace if they could manage it. Simple, practical. Cole looked at her drawings. You know how to lay a foundation? No. Frame walls? No. Build a roof? No. He shook his head. This is going to be a disaster. Probably, Clara agreed, but it's my disaster. He almost smiled. Almost. Tomorrow, he said. We start tomorrow. We? You think you can do this alone? I was planning to. Then you're even more stubborn than I thought. He started unloading lumber. I'll help you build it, but after that, you're on your own. Why are you doing this? Clara asked quietly. Cole stopped, a plank balanced on his shoulder. He looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment something shifted in his expression. Something almost vulnerable. Because nobody helped me when I needed it, he said finally. And I'm tired of watching people struggle alone. Then he turned and carried the plank toward the clearing where they'd build the school. Clara followed. They worked through the next week like the world was ending. Cole taught her how to measure, how to cut, how to hammer nails straight. Clara learned the feel of wood grain under her hands, the weight of a hammer, the way sweat felt when you'd earned it. Her palms blistered, then calloused. Her shoulders ached. Every night she fell asleep before sunset and woke at dawn. The foundation went down first, flat stones from the creek, fitted together like puzzle pieces. Then the frame, rough-cut timber that Cole shaped with an expertise Clara didn't question. Walls next, adobe bricks mixed from clay and straw and dried in the sun. Nina came by on the third day. Clara looked up from mixing adobe to see her standing at the edge of the clearing, Thomas and Samuel behind her. Nina's eyes were wide. You're building it, she said. I am. Clara wiped sweat from her forehead. Want to help? The children looked at Cole. He was up on the frame, hammering in a crossbeam. He glanced down, expression unreadable. Can they? Clara asked him. If they want to break their backs for free, that's their choice, he said. Nina grinned. She stepped forward, Thomas and Samuel following. Clara showed them how to mix the adobe, how to pack it into brick molds, how to set them in the sun to dry. They worked quietly, focused, stealing glances at the growing structure. Cole watched from the frame, didn't say anything, but Clara saw him nod slightly when Samuel managed to fill a mold without spilling. Other children came over the following days. Not many. 3 more at first. 2 girls and a boy, all Apache, all curious. Then a white boy from a homestead to the east, drawn by the sound of hammering. His mother came looking for him, stopped when she saw what they were building. What is this? She asked Clara. A school. For who? For anyone who wants to learn. The woman looked at the Apache children working alongside her son. Her face went tight. Billy, come here. But now. The boy left, head down. His mother pulled him away quickly, looking back once with something between fear and anger. Clara kept mixing adobe. You know she's going to tell people, Cole said that night as they sat by the fire, eating beans and cornbread. I know. You ready for what comes next? Clara looked at the half-finished school, its walls rising against the darkening sky. I have to be, Cole grunted. You're either the bravest person I've met or the most foolish. Can it be both? He almost smiled again. Yeah, probably. The school took shape slowly, piece by piece. By the end of the second week, the walls were up and the roof frame was in place. Cole showed Clara how to lay shingles, how to seal the gaps with tar and moss. They worked side by side, hands moving in rhythm, not talking much, but not needing to. Clara learned things about Cole in those silences. That he'd been a soldier once. She saw the scar on his shoulder when his shirt pulled loose. That he'd lost people. She heard it in the careful way he talked about the past, always vague, always distant. That he'd built this land from nothing and didn't trust anyone who wanted to take it away. "Why'd you come out here?" she asked one afternoon while they were fitting a window frame. "Same reason everyone does," Cole said. "To get away." "From what?" "Everything." He hammered in a nail. "War, people, memories." Clara held the frame steady. "Did it work?" "Sometimes." He looked at her. "You running from something too?" "No, running towards something. That's worse." "Why?" "Because what you're running toward might not want you." Clara thought about Red Hollow, about the mayor's face when he told her to leave, about Billy's mother dragging him away from the school. "I know," she said. "I'm doing it anyway." Cole shook his head, but there was something like respect in it. "You're going to get hurt." "Probably. And you don't care." "I care," Clara said, "but I care more about this." He studied her for a long moment, then he went back to hammering. The children kept coming. Not all of them stayed. Some parents found out and pulled them back, but enough remained. Nina and her brothers. 2 girls named Maria and Rose. A boy called Jack, who barely spoke but loved the books more than anyone. Clara started teaching even before the school was finished. She'd spread a blanket in the shade and gather the children around, reading from whatever book was closest. Sometimes Cole would stop working to listen, pretending he was just catching his breath. One evening, after the children had gone home, Clara found him flipping through the McGuffey reader. "Find something interesting?" she asked. He closed the book quickly. "Just looking?" "You can read it if you want." "I know how to read." "I didn't say you couldn't." Cole set the book down. "My mother taught me, before she died." "I'm sorry." "Long time ago." He stood, brushed dust from his pants. "School's almost done. Another few days." "I know." "You figure out what you're going to do when people come to shut it down?" Clara looked at the building, her building now, built from nothing but stubbornness and borrowed land. "Stand in front of it." "That's not a plan." "It's the only one I have." Cole was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "When they come, I'll stand with you." Clara turned to him. "You don't have to." "I know I don't." His voice was rough. "But I'm going to anyway." Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. 2 people who'd both run away from something and found themselves here, in this place, building something that probably wouldn't last but mattered anyway. "Thank you," Clara said quietly. Cole nodded. Then he picked up his tools and walked back toward the school. Clara watched him go, something warm unfolding in her chest. Not love. Not yet. But the beginning of it. The possibility. She'd come out here alone. She wasn't alone anymore. The school finished on a Tuesday. Cole hammered in the last shingle while Clara swept out the inside. It wasn't much. 1 room with a dirt floor, 6 rough benches, a makeshift desk made from planks and sawhorses. The slate board hung on the wall. Books lined a shelf Cole had built in the corner. It was perfect. "Well," Cole said, standing in the doorway. "It's done." Clara set down the broom. She felt something catch in her throat. Relief, pride, fear all tangled together. "Yes." "You did it." "We did it." He shrugged, uncomfortable with the acknowledgement. "I just helped build the box. You're the one who's going to fill it." Clara walked to the door, stood beside him, looking out at the clearing. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Somewhere in the distance, a hawk cried. "What if no one comes?" she asked quietly. "They'll come." "How do you know?" "Because you'll make them." He looked at her. "You're stubborn enough." Clara laughed despite herself. "Is that a compliment? Take it however you want." They stood there in the fading light, 2 people who'd built something impossible together. Clara thought about tomorrow, when she'd open the door and see if anyone showed up. About the days after that, when word would spread and people would come to see what she'd done. Some would come to learn. Some would come to shut it down. She'd face them all the same way, with her books, her chalk, and the belief that education didn't belong to just one kind of person. It belonged to everyone. "I should go," Cole said finally. "Got work tomorrow." "Of course," Clara turned to him. "Thank you for everything." "You already thanked me." I know. I'm doing it again. He nodded, started to leave, then stopped. Clara. It was the first time he'd used her first name. She looked up. Be careful, he said. People are going to fight this. Hard. I know. Just be careful. I will. He held her gaze for another moment. Then he walked away into the gathering dark. Clara stood in the doorway of her school, her impossible, improbable school, and made herself a promise. No matter what came next, she wouldn't run. Not this time. Not ever again. Morning came cold and clear. Clara woke before dawn, dressed, and walked to the school carrying her chalk and books. She built a fire in the small stove Cole had installed, swept the floor one more time, arranged the benches. Then she waited. The sun climbed, birds sang, the creek murmured nearby. No one came. Clara sat at her makeshift desk, hands folded, trying not to feel the doubt creeping in. Maybe she'd been wrong. Maybe the children wouldn't come back now that the school was real. Maybe their parents had forbidden it. Maybe she really was alone. Then she heard footsteps. Nina appeared first, Samuel's hand in hers, Thomas trailing behind. They stopped in the doorway, taking in the finished school with wide eyes. It's real, Nina breathed. It's real, Clara agreed. Come in. They stepped inside, tentative at first, then more confident. Samuel ran to the bookshelf, pulling out the reader. Thomas sat on a bench, testing its sturdiness. Nina walked slowly around the room, touching the walls like she couldn't quite believe they were solid. Can we really learn here? She asked. Every day, Clara said. More children came. Maria and Rose together, holding hands. Jack alone, silent as always, but with a small smile. 2 more Apache children Clara hadn't met before. A boy and a girl, maybe 8 and 9. By the time the sun was fully up, there were 10 children in the school. 10. Clara stood at the front of the room, looking at their faces. They looked back at her, waiting. She picked up a piece of chalk. Today, she said, we're going to learn about stories. Who knows what a story is? Every hand went up. Clara smiled and began to teach. The school held for 3 weeks before the first real trouble came. Clara had fallen into a rhythm by then, mornings teaching reading and arithmetic, afternoons working with the older children on writing and history. The younger ones learned their letters on slates, while the older ones copied passages from books. It wasn't much, but it was more than any of them had before. Nina was the fastest learner. She'd come early and stay late, helping the smaller children sound out words, erasing the slate board at the end of each day. Thomas had warmed up too, though he still watched the tree line like he expected someone to come charging out of it. Samuel drew pictures in the margins of his slate, horses and birds and things Clara couldn't quite make out, but that made him happy. Cole stopped by most afternoons, always with some excuse. Needed to check the roof, had extra lumber they might use for shelves, wanted to make sure the stove was drawing properly. Clara let him pretend these were the real reasons. They both knew he came to listen. He'd sit on the bench in the back, arms crossed, face unreadable. But when Jack stumbled over a word and finally got it right, Clara saw Cole's mouth twitch, almost a smile. You're getting soft, she told him one evening after the children had gone. I'm checking my investment, he said. Made sure you didn't burn down the building I helped put up. That's your story? That's the truth. Clara wiped chalk dust from her hands. Thank you for checking on your investment then. You're welcome. He stood, stretched. You need anything? More books would help, and slates. We're sharing 3 between 10 children. I'll see what I can do. He'd brought her 4 slates 2 days later. Didn't say where he got them. Clara didn't ask. But the fragile piece couldn't last forever. It broke on a Thursday afternoon when a wagon rolled up to the school just as Clara was dismissing the children for the day. 3 men climbed down, homesteaders from the look of them, wearing work clothes and carrying themselves with the kind of rigid certainty that meant trouble. The oldest one, maybe 50 with a gray beard and hard eyes, stepped forward. You Clara Vance? Clara moved to stand between him and the children. I am. Name's Walter Pike. This is my land you're on. This is Cole Rayner's land. Rayner doesn't own this creek. It's common water, which means this ground is for everyone's use, not just yours. Clara kept her voice steady. I'm not stopping anyone from using it. You're running a school here. Yes. Teaching Apache kids? I'm teaching all children who want to learn. Pike spat in the dirt. We heard about you, about what you did in Red Hollow. Thought you'd have learned your lesson. Nina stepped forward. Clara put out a hand to stop her, but Nina spoke anyway. We're just reading, she said quietly. We're not hurting anyone. Pike looked at her like she was something he'd scraped off his boot. Your kind don't need reading. Your kind need to stay where you belong. Thomas moved in front of his sister. We have a right to be here. You got no rights, one of the other men said. He was younger, maybe 30, with a face that looked like it enjoyed cruelty. You're here because we let you be here, and we can change our minds any time we want. Clara felt her hands curl into fists. The children are leaving. If you have a problem with me, take it up with me. Leave them alone. Oh, we got a problem with you, Pike said. You're stirring up things that ought to stay settled, making people think there's no difference between, he gestured at the Apache children, between them and us. But there is a difference, and pretending there's not is dangerous. The only dangerous thing here is ignorance, Clara said, which you're demonstrating quite well. Pike's face went red. He stepped forward. You got a sharp mouth for someone who's outnumbered. She's not outnumbered. Everyone turned. Cole stood at the edge of the clearing, rifle resting casually across his shoulder. He must have heard the wagon, must have come running. Pike's eyes narrowed. Raynor. Should have known you'd be mixed up in this. It's my land, Cole said, like the lady told you. The creek that runs through my property has for 6 years. You want to dispute it? Take it up with the land office. Cole's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Until then, you're trespassing. The younger man put his hand on his belt, near where a knife hung. Cole saw it, shifted the rifle slightly, not pointing it, not yet, just making it clear he could. This ain't over, Pike said. I expect not, Cole agreed. But it's over for today. Get off my land. For a long moment, nobody moved. Clara could hear her own heartbeat, could feel Nina's hand gripping the back of her dress. Then Pike turned and climbed back on the wagon. The other two followed. You're making a mistake, Raynor, Pike called as they pulled away. Siding with her, with them. People are going to remember. Let them, Cole said. The wagon rattled off. Clara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The children stood frozen, eyes wide. Everyone all right? She asked. They nodded, but Samuel was crying silently, tears running down his cheeks. Nina pulled him close, murmuring something in Apache. Cole lowered the rifle. You should send them home, now. Clara wanted to argue, but he was right. Class is dismissed. Go straight home, don't stop anywhere. The children scattered quickly, even Nina, who usually lingered. Clara watched them disappear into the trees and hills, feeling something sick settle in her stomach. That's going to happen again, Cole said. I know. Might be worse next time. I know that too. He looked at her. You scared? Terrified, Clara admitted. But I'm not stopping. Cole shook his head. You really are the most stubborn woman I've ever met. Is that still a compliment? I haven't decided yet. He walked toward his horse, tied nearby. Then he stopped. Clara, they're not going to give up. Pike and men like him. They think you're threatening their whole world. I'm teaching children to read. You're teaching Apache children to read. White children. Together. In the same room. That's not just education to them. That's... He searched for the word. Revolution. Clara thought about that. Maybe it is. Then you better be ready for a war. He rode off before she could respond. Clara stood alone in the clearing as the sun dropped toward the horizon. She should have felt triumphant. They'd faced down the first real opposition and survived. But all she felt was tired and afraid, and certain that this was only the beginning. She went back inside the school, started cleaning up. Slates needed washing. Books needed shelving. The floor needed sweeping. Normal things. Safe things. Her hands were shaking. She'd told Cole she was terrified. That was true. But what she hadn't said was that the fear was bigger than just men like Pike. It was the fear that maybe he was right. Not about Apache children not deserving education, that was nonsense, but about her being dangerous, about stirring things up. People had gotten hurt before when she'd pushed too hard. Back in Philadelphia, in her first teaching position, She'd challenged the headmaster about a student being expelled for stealing bread. The headmaster had fired her. The student had been sent to a workhouse. Her defiance hadn't saved anyone. It had just made things worse. What if that happened here? What if her stubbornness got these children hurt? Clara sat on one of the benches, head in her hands. For the first time since building the school, she let herself wonder if she should walk away, pack up her books, leave quietly, stop making waves. She sat there until dark, turning it over in her mind. Then she remembered Samuel's face when he'd first sounded out his name on the slate. The pure joy there, the pride. And she remembered Nina translating for her brothers that first day by the broken wagon, her careful English, her determination. Clara stood, lit a lamp, finished cleaning. She wasn't walking away. Not yet. The children came back the next day, which surprised her. And the day after that. And the day after that. But the numbers dropped. 8 children instead of 10. Then 6. Then 5. Maria and Rose stopped coming after their father heard about Pike's visit. Jack's mother kept him home for 3 days, then finally let him return, but only in the mornings. 2 new children showed up, white boys from a homestead to the south, but their mother pulled them out after 1 day. She said, "You're teaching them to be Apache lovers," the older boy explained apologetically before he left. Said it's not right. Clara just nodded. "Thank you for coming while you could." By the end of the second week after Pike's visit, only Nina, Thomas, and Samuel came regularly. Sometimes Jack in the mornings, sometimes a girl named Beth who snuck away from her chores and never stayed long. Clara taught anyway. She read aloud from Ivanhoe, had them practice their letters, worked through arithmetic problems. If there were 3 students or 30, they deserved her best. But it wore on her. She could feel the weight of it, the isolation, the constant vigilance, the knowledge that she was failing. She'd built a school for everyone, and no one was coming. Cole noticed. He stopped by one afternoon and found her sitting outside on a stump, staring at nothing. "Bad day?" he asked. "Just another day." He sat down beside her, didn't say anything for a while, then, "You're doing good work here. I'm teaching 3 children. That's 3 more than had a chance before." Clara looked at him. "Is that enough?" "I don't know." "Is it?" She didn't have an answer. Cole picked up a stick, started stripping the bark off. "When I first came out here, I thought I could build something that mattered. Thought if I worked hard enough, proved myself, people would respect the land I claimed. Took me 2 years to figure out that some people were never going to respect me no matter what I did. They'd already decided what I was worth." "What changed?" "I stopped caring what they thought." He threw the stick. "Started caring about what I thought instead." Clara considered that. "You're saying I should stop trying to change minds." "I'm saying you can't change someone who doesn't want to be changed. All you can do is build what you believe in and see who shows up. And if no one shows up, then you built it for yourself." Cole stood, brushed off his pants. "That's still worth something." He left her there with that thought. That night, Clara lay in her bedroll near the school and thought about Philadelphia, about the headmaster, about the boy she'd failed to save. She'd spent years thinking that failure meant she'd done something wrong, that if she'd just been smarter, more careful, more strategic, she could have changed things. But maybe that wasn't the lesson. Maybe the lesson was that you did what you could, and you lived with the results. She fell asleep still thinking about it. The storm came 3 days later. Clara had seen it building all morning, dark clouds piling up in the west, the air going still and heavy. By noon the wind had picked up, bending the cottonwoods sideways. She'd dismissed the children early. "Go straight home," she told them. "Don't stop." Nina looked worried. "Will you be all right?" "I'll be fine. Go." They left running. Clara started closing shutters, securing anything that might blow away. The first drops hit just as she finished, fat and cold, hitting the roof like thrown stones. Then the sky opened up. It rained like the world was ending. Thunder cracked so loud Clara felt it in her chest. Lightning turned everything white and stark. Wind howled around the school, finding every crack and gap, making the building creak and groan. Clara sat inside, lamp lit, trying to read but mostly just listening to the storm. It went on for hours. The creek would be flooding by now. The paths would be mud. Anyone caught out in this would be in serious trouble. She was just thinking that when she heard the pounding on the door. Clara jumped up, heart racing, yanked the door open. Nina stood there, soaked through, hair plastered to her face. "Samuel's gone!" Clara pulled her inside. "What? When?" "He ran ahead on the way home. We told him to wait, but he didn't listen. Thomas went after him, but—" She was crying now, words tumbling out in a rush. "We can't find him. We looked everywhere. My father's searching, but it's too dark and the water's too high and—" "Slow down!" Clara grabbed a coat. "Where did you last see him?" "Near the big rocks, where the creek bends. He was trying to catch up to a rabbit or something. I don't know. He just ran—" Clara's blood went cold. That part of the creek was usually shallow, but in a storm like this it would be a torrent. If Samuel had fallen in— She didn't finish the thought. "Stay here," she told Nina. "Keep dry. I'm going to find him. I'm coming with you." "No. He's my brother. And I need you safe so I can focus on finding him." Clara gripped Nina's shoulders. "Stay. Here. That's an order." Nina's face crumpled, but she nodded. Clara ran out into the storm. The rain hit her like a fist. Within seconds she was drenched, her dress heavy and clinging. She couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. Lightning flashed, showing her snapshots of the landscape. Trees bending, water rushing, everything wild and violent. She headed toward the big rocks, stumbling over roots and stones. The creek was already over its banks, brown water churning past. Clara followed it upstream, calling Samuel's name, knowing he probably couldn't hear her over the storm. She'd been searching maybe 10 minutes when she saw Cole. He appeared out of the rain on horseback, leading a second horse. When he saw her, he pulled up short. "Nina came to my house," he shouted over the wind. "Said the boy's missing. Near the big rocks. I'm heading there now. You'll never make it on foot." He reached down. "Get on." Clara grabbed his hand, let him pull her up behind him. They rode hard through the storm, the horse picking its way carefully over slick ground. When they reached the rocks, Cole dismounted and Clara slid down after him. "Samuel," she screamed. "Samuel, can you hear me?" Nothing but rain and thunder. Cole cupped his hands around his mouth. "Samuel, call out if you can hear us." They waited. Lightning flashed. And there, barely audible over the storm, a thin voice. "Help!" Clara and Cole looked at each other. Then they were moving, scrambling over rocks slick with rain, following the sound. The creek raged beside them, higher than Clara had ever seen it, carrying branches and debris downstream. "Samuel!" Cole called. "Keep shouting! We're coming!" "I'm here! I'm stuck!" They found him wedged between two boulders about 20 yards downstream, half in the water, clutching a tree root. His face was white with fear and cold. The water was pulling at him, trying to drag him under. "Hold on!" Clara shouted. "We're going to get you!" Cole was already moving, working his way down to the water's edge. The current was too strong to wade through. He'd need a rope. Clara looked around frantically. Nothing. Then she saw Cole pulling off his belt. "Not long enough," she said. He looked at her dress. The sash. Clara yanked off the wide cloth belt she wore. Cole tied it to his belt, then looped that around his waist and handed the other end to Clara. "Hold this. Don't let go." "Cole, don't let go." He waded in. The current hit him immediately, nearly knocking him over. He braced against it, moving carefully, testing each step. Clara held the makeshift rope, feeling it go taut as the water pulled at him. Her hands were numb with cold and fear. Cole reached Samuel, grabbed him under the arms. The boy came free from the rocks, but the current yanked them both sideways. Cole's feet went out from under him. Clara pulled. She leaned back, putting her whole weight into it, dragging them toward shore. Her boots slipped in the mud. She went down on one knee but didn't let go. Pulled again. Felt the rope biting into her palms. Then Cole's hand caught a rock. He hauled himself and Samuel out of the main current into the shallows. Clara kept pulling until they were on the bank, both of them coughing and gasping. Samuel was crying. Cole was bleeding from a cut on his forehead. Clara knelt beside them, checking for injuries. "Are you hurt?" she asked Samuel. He shook his head, then threw his arms around her neck and sobbed. Clara held him, rain pouring down on all of them. "You're all right. You're all right now." Cole sat back, breathing hard. Blood and rain ran down his face. "Kid weighs more than he looks." Clara almost laughed, almost cried, ended up doing neither, just holding Samuel while the storm raged around them. "We need to get him home," she said finally, "before he freezes." Cole nodded, pushed himself up. They got Samuel on the second horse, Clara climbing up behind to hold him steady. Cole led them back through the storm, moving slowly, carefully. By the time they reached Nina and Thomas's home, a small house near the base of the hills, the rain was starting to ease. Their father met them at the door. He took one look at Samuel and grabbed him off the horse, carrying him inside. Nina appeared behind him, eyes wide. "He's all right," Clara said, cold and scared, but all right. The father looked at her, then at Cole. He didn't speak much English, but what he said was clear. "Thank you." Cole just nodded. They rode back to the school in silence. The storm had passed, leaving everything dripping and muddy. Clara's hands ached. Her whole body ached. She felt like she'd been beaten, but Samuel was safe. When they reached the school, Cole helped her down from the horse. She stood there, swaying slightly, and he caught her elbow. "You all right?" "I think so." "That was stupid what you did, going out in the storm alone." "I know. Could have gotten yourself killed." "I know that too." Cole looked at her, something shifting in his expression, then quietly. "That boy's lucky you're as stubborn as you are." Clara met his eyes. "We both went after him." "Yeah, we did." Something passed between them then, understanding maybe or recognition. They'd almost lost a child tonight. They'd saved him together. That meant something. Cole cleared his throat, stepped back. "You should get dry. Change clothes before you catch your death." "You're bleeding." "It's nothing." "It's not nothing. Come inside. Let me clean it." He started to argue, then just nodded. Inside the school, Clara lit a lamp and found a cloth. Cole sat on one of the benches while she dabbed at the cut on his forehead. It wasn't deep, but it would bruise. Up close like this, she could see how tired he looked, how much older than 30 he seemed sometimes. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for coming, for helping." "Nina came to me. What was I supposed to do?" "You were supposed to tell her it wasn't your problem. That's what most people would have done." "I'm not most people." "I know." She finished cleaning the wound. Cole caught her wrist gently before she could pull away. "Clara, what happened tonight? People are going to hear about it. About you and me going after an Apache boy in a storm. Some folks won't like it." "Let them not like it. I'm serious. This makes you more of a target, makes both of us targets." "Then we'll be targets together." Cole looked at her for a long moment. Then he released her wrist and stood. "Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be interesting." He left before she could respond. Clara sat alone in the lamplight, listening to water drip from the eaves. Her dress was still wet. Her hands were raw. She should change, should eat something, should sleep. Instead, she thought about Samuel's face when they'd pulled him from the water. About the way his father had looked at her, not with suspicion or anger, but with gratitude. About Nina's voice when she'd said, "Thank you for finding him." This was why she'd built the school, not to change the world, not to prove a point, but for moments like that, for the chance to help when it mattered. Cole was right. Tomorrow would be interesting. Word would spread. More people would be angry. The fragile acceptance she'd been building would probably crack. But tonight, a child was safe. And that was enough. The next morning, Clara woke to voices outside the school. She sat up, confused for a moment about where she was. Then she remembered. She'd fallen asleep on one of the benches, too exhausted to make it back to her bedroll. Pale sunlight streamed through the windows. The storm had left everything clean and bright. The voices got louder. Clara stood, smoothed her wrinkled dress, and opened the door. Nina and Thomas stood in the clearing. So did their father. And 3 other Apache families Clara had seen before but never spoken to. Maybe 15 people total, adults and children. They'd brought things, baskets of food, blankets, a chair someone had carved from cottonwood. Nina stepped forward. "We came to say thank you. For Samuel." Clara looked at the gathered families. "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, we do." Nina's father spoke, his English careful but firm. "You risked your life for my son. You and Mr. Rayner. That is not a small thing." One of the women came forward, held out a basket. For the school, for the children. Clara took it. Inside were apples, dried meat, cornmeal. Simple things, but precious. She felt her throat tighten. Thank you, she managed. We want our children to learn, another man said. If you will teach them, they will come. Clara looked at the children, 6 she'd taught before, and 4 new ones. 10 students. The number that had come that first day. They were coming back. I'll teach them, she said. Anyone who wants to learn. The families nodded. Then, one by one, they left their gifts and departed. Nina and her brothers stayed, settling onto their usual bench like nothing had changed, like everything had changed. Clara stood in the doorway, watching the families walk away. She thought about what Cole had said last night, about being a target, about people not liking what she'd done. He was probably right, but looking at the children waiting for her to start the lesson, Clara found she didn't care. Let them come. She had work to do. The school grew slowly over the next month, adding 1 or 2 students each week until Clara was teaching 16 children. Not all Apache either. A few white families from the scattered homesteads started sending their kids, reluctantly at first, testing the water, but they came. A girl named Sarah, whose mother was a widow and needed someone to watch her during the day. 2 brothers, James and William, whose father worked Cole's land and figured education couldn't hurt. A quiet boy named Peter who'd never been to school before and struggled with letters but loved numbers. Clara taught them all the same. No special treatment, no separation. If you sat in her classroom, you got the same lesson, the same attention, the same chance. It should have felt like victory. In a way it did, but Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something was building, a pressure she couldn't quite name. She'd see it in town when she went for supplies, the way conversations stopped when she walked past, the way shopkeepers took longer than necessary to find what she needed, the cold stares from women she'd never met. Cole noticed too. You're getting a reputation, he said one evening while helping her repair a broken bench. People are talking. Let them talk. Clara. He set down his hammer. I'm serious. Walter Pike's been spreading stories, saying you're trying to turn white children against their own kind, saying the school's dangerous. It's not. I know that. But they don't care about truth. They care about fear. He looked at her. And you scare them. Clara thought about that. Good. That's not the response I was hoping for. What did you want me to say? That I'll stop teaching? Make the Apache children sit in a different corner so the white parents feel better? She shook her head. I won't do that. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to be careful. I'm being careful. No, you're being stubborn. There's a difference. They'd had this argument before. It always ended the same way. Cole warning her, Clara refusing to back down, both of them frustrated and neither willing to give ground. But underneath the frustration, Clara knew he was right to worry. She was worried too. She just didn't know what to do about it except keep going. That night, after Cole left, Clara sat outside the school and watched the stars come out. The air was cooling, autumn settling in. Soon it would be too cold to teach without a better stove. She'd need more wood, more supplies, more everything. And money was running out. The $3 she'd started with was long gone. She'd been living on what the families brought her, food mostly, sometimes a bit of firewood, but it wasn't enough to buy what the school really needed. She was still sitting there, trying to figure out how to solve problems she couldn't solve, when she heard horses, multiple horses, coming fast. Clara stood, heart suddenly pounding. It was too dark to see much, but she could hear them, maybe 4 or 5 riders coming from the direction of town. They pulled up at the edge of the clearing and someone lit a torch. Walter Pike climbed down from his horse. The other riders stayed mounted, faces half hidden in shadow. Miss Vance, Pike said. His voice was calm, almost pleasant. That scared her more than anger would have. We need to have a conversation. Clara made herself walk forward. Then talk. Not out here, inside, civilized like. Anything you have to say, you can say out here. Pike sighed like she was being unreasonable. Fine. We'll do it your way. He gestured at the school. This needs to stop. No. You're not listening. He waved at the building. This mixing of children. It's not natural. It's not right. And it's causing problems. The only problem is people like you. One of the riders shifted. Clara saw the rifle across his saddle. Pike held up a hand. Now, don't be like that. We're trying to be reasonable. We're giving you a choice. Close the school, leave quietly, and nobody gets hurt. Keep pushing this, and he shrugged. Well, accidents happen. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Pike stepped closer. You saved that Apache boy in the storm. That was noble, I suppose. But it's made things worse. Now more families are sending their kids here. More mixing. More problems. You're making people nervous, Miss Vance. Then maybe they should examine why they're nervous about children learning to read. It's not about reading. The pleasant mask slipped for a moment, showing the anger underneath. Pike caught himself, smoothed it back into place. It's about order. About keeping things the way they should be. You come in here with your books and your ideas, acting like you're better than everyone, trying to change things that don't need changing. I'm not trying to change anything except ignorance. You're trying to make whites and Apaches equal. That's changing everything. Clara looked at him. This man who was so certain of his own righteousness, so sure that the world had to stay exactly as he found it. She'd met men like him before. They were everywhere, in every town, every school board, every position of small power. They dressed their prejudice up as principle and called it common sense. They are equal, Clara said quietly, at least in my classroom. And if that frightens you, that's your problem, not mine. Pike's jaw tightened. Last chance. Close the school. No. Then what happens next is on you. He turned and mounted his horse. The riders wheeled around and thundered off into the darkness, taking the torchlight with them. Clara stood alone in the sudden dark, shaking. She waited until she couldn't hear the horses anymore. Then she went inside, barred the door, and sat down on the floor with her back against the wall. They'd threatened her. Actually threatened her. And the way Pike had said it, so calm, so certain, meant he would follow through. Maybe not tonight, but soon. Clara pulled her knees to her chest. She should be planning, figuring out how to protect the school, how to warn the families. But all she could do was sit there and feel the fear wash over her in waves. She'd been brave for so long, defiant, determined. But sitting alone in the dark with the memory of that rifle glinting in the torchlight, Clara felt something crack inside her. A small voice that said maybe Pike was right. Maybe she was making things worse. Maybe the smart thing, the safe thing, was to walk away before someone got hurt. She sat there for an hour, fighting with herself. Then she got up, lit a lamp, and started writing letters. She wrote to the families whose children attended the school, told them what had happened, gave them the choice to pull their children out if they wanted. She wouldn't blame them. She'd understand. She wrote to the land office, documenting that the school was on Cole's property with his permission. Not that it would matter much if Pike decided to burn it down, but at least there'd be a record. And she wrote one more letter. This one she sealed and set aside. If something happened to her, at least people would know why. Morning came gray and cold. Clara hadn't slept, had just sat at her desk writing until the lamp burned low. When the sun finally came up, she went outside and washed her face in the creek. The water was freezing. It helped clear her head. The children would be here soon. She needed to decide what to tell them. Nina arrived first, as always, with Thomas and Samuel trailing behind. She took one look at Clara's face and stopped. What happened? Clara told her. Told them all as the other children arrived. She didn't sugarcoat it, didn't try to make it less scary than it was. They deserved the truth. So if your parents want to keep you home, Clara finished, I'll understand. This isn't safe anymore. Maybe it never was. The children looked at each other. Then Nina stood. I'm staying, she said. Nina, I'm staying. If they want to scare us away, they'll have to do better than words. They might do exactly that. Then we'll face it when it comes. Nina looked around at the other children. Who else is staying? Every hand went up, even little Samuel's. Clara felt her throat close up. You don't have to. We know, Thomas said. It was maybe the third time Clara had heard him speak directly to her. But this is our school too. We built it. We're not giving it up because some angry men said so. The other children nodded. Sarah, the widow's daughter, gripped her slate tighter. My mama says you're the bravest person she knows. She says we should learn from you. I'm not brave, Clara said. I'm terrified. That's what makes it brave, Nina said quietly. Clara looked at their faces, these children who'd decided to stand with her, even knowing the cost. She thought about the letter she'd sealed last night, the one that assumed the worst. Maybe she'd been wrong to assume. All right, she said. Then we keep going, but carefully. Stay together on the way home. Don't travel alone. And if anyone threatens you, you run. You don't argue, you don't fight back, you run and tell your parents. Understood? They understood. Clara started the lesson. They worked on reading, on arithmetic, on geography. Normal things, safe things. But the whole time, Clara kept glancing at the windows, expecting to see riders, torches, worse. Nothing happened. That day passed, and the next, and the next. A week went by, then two. Clara started to think maybe Pike had just been bluffing. Maybe the threat had been enough for him. Maybe... The fire started just before dawn on a Tuesday. Clara woke to the smell of smoke. She was up and out of her bedroll in seconds, heart hammering. Orange light flickered through the windows. She grabbed her coat and ran outside. The storage shed behind the school was burning. The small structure where she kept extra firewood and supplies was engulfed in flames, sparks shooting into the pre-dawn sky. Clara ran for the creek, grabbed a bucket, filled it, and threw water on the flames. Useless. The fire was too big, too hot. She heard hoofbeats and spun around. Cole came riding hard out of the darkness. He vaulted off his horse, took one look at the fire, and started beating at the edges with a blanket. Get the books out of the school, now! Clara ran inside. The school itself wasn't burning yet, but embers were landing on the roof. It was only a matter of time. She grabbed books, slate boards, anything that mattered, and carried them out to the clearing. Cole worked on the shed, trying to create a fire break, keeping the flames from spreading. By the time the sun came up, the shed was gone. Just a smoking pile of charred wood and ash. But the school still stood. Cole sat on the ground, face black with soot, breathing hard. Clara collapsed beside him. Neither spoke for a long moment. It was Pike, Clara said finally. Probably. He's trying to scare me away. Is it working? Clara looked at the ruins of the shed, then at the school, still standing despite everything. No. Cole turned to look at her. It should be. I know. This is just the start, Clara. Next time they might not stop at a shed. I know that too. She met his eyes. But I'm not leaving. He shook his head, but there was something like respect in it. You're going to get yourself killed. Maybe. But at least I'll die doing something that matters. That's not as comforting as you think it is. They sat in silence, watching smoke rise from the ashes. Clara thought about what she was risking. Not just her own safety, but the children's, the families who'd trusted her, Cole, who kept showing up to help even when it put him in danger too. You should stop coming here, she said quietly. This is my fight, not yours. Too late for that. Cole, I said it's too late. He stood, brushed ash from his clothes. I'm already involved. Pike knows I've been helping you. I'm already a target, so I might as well keep helping. That's terrible logic. I know. He offered her his hand. Come on, let's see what we can salvage. They spent the morning sorting through the ashes. Most of the firewood was gone. The tools she'd stored there, a spare hammer, some nails, a saw, were ruined. But the books were safe. The slates were safe. The school itself miraculously had survived. Nina and the other children arrived around mid-morning and stopped short when they saw the destruction. What happened? Nina asked, though her face said she already knew. Someone started a fire, Clara said, last night. Who? I don't know for sure. Yes, you do. Thomas's voice was hard. It was them, the men who came before. Clara didn't deny it. Maybe. We should fight back, one of the other boys said. His name was Joseph, and he was 13, old enough to be angry. We should keep learning, Clara interrupted. That's how we fight back, by refusing to be scared away. They burned your shed. They burned a shed. They didn't burn us. Clara looked around at all of them. If we give up now, they win. If we keep going, we win. It's that simple. It's not simple at all, Nina said quietly. No, Clara admitted, it's not. But it's what we have. They had class that day despite everything, sat in the school that smelled like smoke and worked on their lessons. Clara's hand shook when she wrote on the slate board. The children kept glancing at the windows, but they stayed. They learned. And when the day ended and they went home, Clara stood in the doorway and watched them go, wondering if this was the last time. Wondering if tomorrow they'd come back to find the whole school burned down. Wondering if she was doing the right thing or just being stubborn to the point of stupidity. Cole stayed after the children left. They didn't talk much, just worked together to clean up more of the ash, to check the school's roof for damage. Finally, as the sun started to set, he turned to her. "I'm going to town tomorrow," he said. Clara looked up. "Why?" "To talk to Pike. To tell him this stops now." "Cole, that's necessary." His voice was firm. "He threatened you. He burned your property. That's not just intimidation anymore. That's destruction. And if I don't do something, he's going to keep going until someone gets hurt. What are you going to do?" "Talk to him. Make it clear there are consequences." "He won't listen." "Then I'll make him listen." Clara grabbed his arm. "Don't do this. You'll just make yourself more of a target." "I'm already a target. You said it yourself." Cole looked at her, something fierce in his eyes. "But I'm not you, Clara. I'm not patient. I'm not willing to just absorb hits and keep going. Someone threatens what I care about, I hit back. I'm not asking you to care about this. Too late. I already do." The words hung between them. Clara realized she was still holding his arm, that they were standing very close. She could see soot smudged on his cheek, could see the determination in his face. "Please don't go," she said quietly. "It won't help." "It might? Or it might get you killed. I'll be careful." "Cole?" "Clara." He covered her hand with his. "I have to do this. Not for you. For me. Because if I don't, I'm going to wake up every morning wondering when the next fire comes. When they hurt one of those kids. When they hurt you. And I can't—" He stopped, jaw tight. "I can't just wait for that." Clara understood. She felt the same way. The difference was she'd learned to channel it into persistence, into showing up every day despite the fear. Cole channeled it into action. Neither way was wrong. They were just different. "Be careful," she said finally. "I will." He left before she could say anything else. Clara watched him ride away into the gathering dark, feeling something cold settle in her chest. This wasn't over. It was escalating, and she had no idea how to stop it except to keep doing what she'd been doing. Teaching, persisting, refusing to give up. She went back inside the school and sat at her desk, tried to plan tomorrow's lesson. But all she could think about was Cole riding into town to confront men who'd already shown they were willing to burn things down. She didn't sleep that night either. Morning came. The children arrived. Clara taught, but her mind was elsewhere. Every sound made her jump. Every movement outside the windows drew her attention. Cole didn't come. Not in the morning, not at noon, not in the afternoon. By the time Clara dismissed the children, she was sick with worry. Something had happened. She knew it, could feel it. She was pacing outside the school, trying to decide if she should go looking for him, when she heard the horse. Cole rode into the clearing and dismounted stiffly. His face was bruised, lips split, knuckles torn. But he was alive. Clara ran to him. "What happened?" "Had a conversation with Pike." Cole touched his jaw, winced. It got heated. "Did he? He didn't do this. His friends did." Cole walked toward the creek, knelt, splashed water on his face. "I found Pike at the saloon, told him the fires stopped where there'd be consequences. He laughed at me, said I was wasting my time protecting a woman and some half-breed kids who'd never amount to anything anyway." Clara's hands clenched. "What did you do?" "I hit him." "Cole, I know, wasn't smart, but I couldn't—" He shook his head. "Doesn't matter. I hit him. His friends jumped me. The sheriff broke it up. Spent last night in a cell cooling off." "Are you all right?" "I'm fine. Just bruised." He stood, water dripping from his face. "But Clara, it didn't help. Pike's angrier now, more determined. And the sheriff, he told me to stay away from town. Said if I caused trouble again, There'll be real consequences. So they can burn my shed and nothing happens, but you defend me and you're the criminal. That's about the size of it. Clara felt rage bubbling up inside her. Not at Cole, at the injustice of it, at the way the system protected men like Pike while punishing people who stood up to them, at the whole rotten structure that said some people mattered and others didn't. I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry you got hurt because of me. Don't apologize. I made my choice. Cole looked at her. But we need to talk about what comes next. Because Pike made it clear last night, he's not stopping until you leave. Then he'll be disappointed. Clara, I'm not leaving, Cole. I can't. She gestured at the school. These children are counting on me. If I run now, I'm telling them that people like Pike get to win, that fear is stronger than hope. I won't do that. Even if it gets you killed? Even then. Cole stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, a bitter, exhausted sound. You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met. You've mentioned that before. I'll probably mention it again. He moved toward his horse. I need to go home, clean up. But I'll be back tomorrow. You don't have to keep coming. I know. He mounted up, looked down at her. But I will anyway. He rode off before she could respond. Clara stood alone in the clearing, watching the sunset. She thought about what he'd done, going into town, confronting Pike, taking a beating for her sake. She thought about the children who kept coming despite the danger. About the families who trusted her with their most precious thing. She'd started this thinking she could make a difference. Now she was starting to realize what that actually meant. Not just teaching, not just building a school, but standing in the gap between what was and what should be, and refusing to move even when the cost got high. Clara went back inside, lit a lamp, started planning tomorrow's lesson. Outside, the night settled in. Somewhere out there, Walter Pike was planning his next move. The sheriff was deciding whether to enforce laws that only protected certain people. Families were arguing about whether to keep their children in a school that might get them hurt. But in here, in this small room built from scraps and stubbornness, Clara had books. She had chalk. She had a plan for tomorrow, and tomorrow she'd teach. Whatever came after that, she'd face it when it arrived. 2 more fires came in the next week. The first was another outbuilding, a small lean-to Clara had built to store water barrels. The second was a fence post, lit and left burning as a message. Both times, Clara woke to smoke and flames. Both times, she and Cole managed to keep the school itself from catching. But the message was clear. Pike wasn't giving up. He was tightening the noose. The family started to waver. First, Sarah's mother pulled her out, apologizing but firm. Then the 2 brothers, James and William, stopped coming. Their father came by to explain. I got to think about their safety, he said, hat in his hands. I appreciate what you're doing, Miss Vance. I really do. But if something happens to my boys, I understand, Clara said, because what else could she say? By the end of the week, she was down to 8 students, all Apache except for Peter, the quiet boy who loved numbers. His parents were tenant farmers on land far enough from town that they didn't care what Pike thought. Clara taught the 8 like she'd taught 16, same lessons, same attention, but it felt different now, felt like losing. Cole saw it in her face one afternoon when he stopped by. The children had just left, and Clara was sitting on the steps staring at nothing. You can't take it personally, he said. I'm not. You are. I can see it. He sat down beside her. Those families made the choice they had to make. That's not on you. I know, but it still feels like failure. It's not failure. It's just reality. Cole was quiet for a moment. You're still teaching 8 children who wouldn't have any education otherwise. That's not nothing. It's not enough. It never will be. Not for you. He looked at her. That's your problem, Clara. You want to save everyone, but you can't. Best you can do is save the ones in front of you. Clara knew he was right. Didn't make it easier. That night, she made a decision. If Pike wanted her gone, she'd make him work for it. She'd stop reacting and start acting. She'd go into town herself, talk to people, make them see what they were really fighting against. Cole thought she was crazy when she told him the next morning, You walk into Red Hollow after everything that's happened, Pike will have you arrested for breathing wrong. Then let him try. Clara, I'm tired of hiding out here like I did something wrong. I haven't. I built a school. I'm teaching children. If that's a crime, then someone needs to explain to me when education became illegal. Cole rubbed his face. You're going to get hurt. Probably, but I'm going anyway. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he stood, grabbed his coat. Fine, but I'm coming with you. You don't have to. We've had this conversation. Stop having it. They rode into Red Hollow together the next morning. It was market day, which meant the town would be crowded. Clara wanted witnesses, wanted people to see her, hear her, understand what was really happening. The town looked exactly the same. Main Street lined with shops, the saloon on the corner, the church with its white steeple. But it felt different now. Hostile. Clara could feel eyes on her the moment they rode in. They tied their horses outside the general store. Cole stayed close as Clara walked inside. The shopkeeper, a thin man named Morris, looked up and his face went pale. Miss Vance, I heard you were still around. I am. I need supplies, chalk, if you have it, paper, lamp oil. Morris glanced toward the door nervously. I don't know if I can sell to you. Why not? My money's the same as anyone else's. It's not about money. It's about... He lowered his voice. People are talking about you and that school. Mr. Pike's been saying... I don't care what Pike's been saying. I need supplies for my students. Are you going to sell to me or not? Morris hesitated. Then, reluctantly, he started gathering items. Clara paid, thanked him, and walked back outside. A small crowd had gathered on the street, not threatening yet, just watching, curious, wary. Walter Pike stood at the center of them. Miss Vance, he called out. Didn't expect to see you back in town. Clara walked toward him, Cole a step behind. I go where I need to go. Even when you're not welcome? I was never welcome. That hasn't changed anything yet. Pike smiled, but there was nothing friendly in it. You're a stubborn woman, I'll give you that. But stubbornness without sense is just foolishness. And prejudice without examination is just cowardice. The crowd murmured. Pike's smile faded. Careful, Miss Vance. You're making accusations you can't prove. Can I? Someone's been burning buildings on Mr. Rayner's property. Someone's been threatening children and families. Someone's been trying to scare me away from doing my job. If that's not you, then who is it? Could be anyone. Lots of people disagree with what you're doing. Then those people are wrong. Pike stepped closer. Clara held her ground. Cole shifted beside her, hand moving toward his belt. The crowd pressed in tighter. You think you're better than us, Pike said quietly. Coming in here with your education and your ideas. Thinking you can change how things work. But you can't. This town has an order, a way of doing things, and you're disrupting it. Good. Your order needs disrupting. Why? Because you say so. Because it's cruel. Because it tells children they're less valuable based on where they come from. Because it perpetuates ignorance and calls it tradition. Clara looked around at the crowd. I'm not trying to destroy anything. I'm trying to build something better. A place where every child has a chance. Where education isn't reserved for people who look a certain way or come from certain families. If that threatens you, maybe you should ask yourself why. Silence. The crowd watched, waiting to see what Pike would do. He laughed, short and bitter. You're naive. You really think you can change minds with a speech? No, I think I can change them with results. With children who learn to read and write and think for themselves. With proof that your way isn't the only way. And when those children grow up, when they want jobs, land, respect, you think this town's going to give them that just because you taught them their letters? Maybe not, but at least they'll have the tools to fight for it themselves. Pike shook his head. You're going to get people hurt. You understand that? All this idealism, this stubbornness, it's going to end with someone bleeding. Then stop threatening them. Stop burning buildings and intimidating families. Let me teach in peace. I can't do that. Why not? Because what you're doing is dangerous, not just to us, to everyone. You're giving people ideas, making them think things can change when they can't, when they shouldn't. Clara looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something she hadn't expected. Fear. Pike wasn't just angry, he was scared. Scared of what her school represented. Scared of losing control. Scared of a world where his certainty didn't matter anymore. Things can always change, Clara said quietly. They're changing right now, whether you like it or not. You can fight it or you can accept it. But either way, it's happening. Pike's jaw tightened. For a moment, Clara thought he might actually hit her. Then the sheriff pushed through the crowd. "That's enough," he said. "Miss Vance, I think you should leave. I haven't broken any laws. You're causing a disturbance. I'm having a conversation. You're agitating people, and I won't have violence in my town." The sheriff looked at Cole. "Take her home, Rayner, before this gets out of hand." Cole's hand was still near his belt. "She's got a right to be here. Not if it causes trouble." "The trouble started before she got here." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "Don't push me. I already let you off easy last time. Next time you won't be so lucky." Cole looked like he wanted to argue. Clara touched his arm. "It's all right," she said. "We're leaving." They walked back to their horses, the crowd parting reluctantly. Clara could feel Pike's eyes on her back, could feel the weight of all those stares, all that anger and fear and confusion. She'd come to town hoping to change minds. Instead, she'd just made everything worse. They rode in silence until they were out of town. Then Cole finally spoke. "That was stupid." "I know. You didn't change anything, just made Pike angrier." "I know that too." "Then why did you do it?" Clara thought about that. "Because I needed to stop hiding. I needed to look them in the eye and tell them I wasn't afraid." "But you are afraid." "Yes, but they don't need to know that." Cole shook his head. "You're impossible. You keep saying that, because it keeps being true." They made it back to the school by late afternoon. The children had already gone home. Clara unsaddled her horse, fed her, then sat on the school steps watching the sun drop toward the hills. Cole sat beside her. Neither spoke for a while. Finally, Clara said, "Do you think I'm wrong? About all this? About teaching children to read?" "No." "About the way I'm doing it, pushing so hard, refusing to compromise?" Cole was quiet for a long moment. "I think you're doing what you think is right, and I think it's costing you more than you expected. But wrong?" He shook his head. "No, not wrong. Even if someone gets hurt, people are already hurt. This whole system, the way things are set up, it's been hurting people for years. You're just making it visible." Clara looked at him. "When did you get so wise?" "I'm not wise. I'm just tired of pretending things are fine when they're not." They sat until the stars came out. Clara thought about going back inside, trying to sleep, but she didn't want to move, didn't want to be alone with her thoughts. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure." "Why are you doing this? Really? It's not just about the school. It's not just about helping me. There's something else." Cole was silent for so long Clara thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, "I had a brother, younger. Name was Daniel. He got sick when we were kids, fever, infection, something. My mother didn't know how to help him, couldn't afford a doctor, couldn't even read the medicine labels to know what to give him." "What happened?" "He died. Took 3 days." Cole's voice was flat, emotionless. And the whole time, I kept thinking if she could read, she'd know what to do. If we had education, money, access to things other people had, he'd live. But we didn't, so he didn't. Clara felt her throat tighten. "I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. But I never forgot it. Never forgot what it feels like to be helpless, because you don't know things you should know." He looked at her. "That's why I'm helping you, because every kid you teach is one less kid who grows up not knowing. One less family that loses someone because they couldn't read a label or write a letter or figure out how the world works. You could have told me that sooner. I don't like talking about Daniel." "I understand." They sat in the dark, shoulders almost touching. Clara thought about all the reasons people fought for things. Money, power, pride. But Cole was fighting for a ghost, for a brother who died because the world was set up to keep certain people ignorant and helpless. No wonder he understood what she was trying to do. "Thank you," Clara said quietly, "for telling me, and for helping." "You're welcome." "And Cole, your brother, he'd be proud of you." Cole didn't answer, but in the starlight, Clara saw him nod. The next morning brought more trouble. Clara was teaching multiplication to the older children when she heard horses. Not just one or two, Many. She looked up, saw Nina's face go pale, and knew before she even looked outside. Pike had brought an army. Clara stepped out onto the porch. At least 20 men sat on horses in the clearing. Some she recognized from town. Others were strangers. All of them were armed. Pike sat at the front. "Miss Vance, we need to have that conversation now." Clara's hands were shaking. She hid them behind her back. "Say what you came to say. The school is closing. Today. Now. You have 1 hour to gather your things and leave." "No. This isn't a negotiation." "Then why are we talking?" Pike dismounted, walked toward the school. Clara stepped down to meet him, putting herself between him and the door. Behind her, she could hear the children gathering, watching through the windows. "You had your chance," Pike said. "I tried to be reasonable, gave you warnings, gave you time, but you wouldn't listen. So now we're done talking. You're going to burn it down. If I have to." "With children inside?" "Those children should be home with their families, not here learning things that'll just make their lives harder." Clara felt rage building in her chest. "You don't get to decide what they learn." "Actually, I do. This is our town, our land, our rules. This is Cole Rayner's land, and he gave me permission. Rayner's not here." Pike looked around. "Funny that. Usually he shows up to defend you. Where is he today?" Clara's stomach dropped. She'd assumed Cole would come, like he always did. But the clearing was empty except for Pike's men. Cole was nowhere. Something was wrong. Pike saw the realization hit her face and smiled. "Don't worry. He's fine. For now. Just having a conversation with some of my associates at his property, making sure he understands that interfering with town business has consequences. If you hurt him, we're just talking, same as you and me are talking." Pike stepped closer. "But if he tries to come here, tries to stop what's about to happen, well, accidents happen." Clara's mind raced. Pike had split them up, sent men to keep Cole busy while he came here. Smart, cruel, effective. She was alone. Behind her, the door opened. Nina stepped out. "Get back inside," Clara said. "No." Nina walked down to stand beside her. "This is our school, too." Thomas came out next. Then Samuel. Then the others. All 8 children, ranging in age from 6 to 14, standing in a line between Pike and the building. "Children," Pike said, his voice almost gentle. "Go home. This doesn't concern you." "Yes, it does," Nina said. "You're trying to take away our school." "I'm trying to protect you." "From what? Learning?" "From disappointment. From ideas that'll make you unhappy with your place in the world." "Our place?" Thomas's voice was hard. "You mean the place you decided we should have?" Pike's jaw tightened. "Boy, you don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about. You think we're less than you. You think we don't deserve the same chances. But Miss Vance showed us different. She showed us we're just as capable as anyone." "That's a lie." "Prove it." Nina stepped forward. "If we're so inferior, why are you scared of us learning? Why burn buildings and threaten families unless you know, deep down, that we might actually be your equals?" The men on horses shifted uncomfortably. Pike's face went red. "Get out of the way," he said. "All of you, last chance." "No," Clara said. "Then you'll burn with the building." He pulled a torch from his saddle. One of his men lit it. Flames licked up the oil-soaked wood. Clara's heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe. This was it. The moment where principle met reality, where standing for something meant possibly dying for it. She stood her ground. Pike raised the torch. The children pressed closer to Clara. The men on horses watched, waiting. Then someone shouted from the tree line, "Touch that building, and I'll put a bullet through your skull." Everyone turned. Cole stood at the edge of the clearing, rifle aimed directly at Pike. He was bleeding from a cut above his eye. His shirt was torn, but he was upright and steady. Pike lowered the torch slightly. "Rayner, I thought my men were keeping you busy." "They tried. Didn't work out for them." Cole walked forward, never lowering the rifle. "Drop the torch. There's 20 of us and 1 of you." "Then I'll make this one shot count." Cole's voice was ice. "Drop it." Pike hesitated. Then he threw the torch on the ground and stomped it out. "This isn't over." "Yeah, it is." Cole kept walking until he was beside Clara. "You're going to leave, now, all of you, and you're not coming back. You can't stop us forever." "Maybe not, but I can stop you today." Cole looked at the men on horses. "Anyone here want to die over this? Because that's what's going to happen if you try to burn this school. I'll shoot Pike first, then whoever comes next, and I'll keep shooting until I'm out of bullets or you're out of men." One of the men in back turned his horse and rode away. Then another. Then 3 more. Within a minute, half of Pike's army had disappeared. Pike's face twisted with rage. "Cowards!" "Smart men," Cole corrected. "They know a bad idea when they see one." Pike looked at the remaining men, looked at Cole, looked at Clara and the children standing in front of the school. "Fine," he said finally. "You win today, but this isn't over, Raynor. Not by a long shot. I'm counting on it." Cole's finger didn't leave the trigger. "Now get off this land before I change my mind about letting you leave." Pike mounted his horse. The remaining men followed. They rode out slowly, deliberately, making it clear they weren't running, just choosing to leave. When they were gone, Cole finally lowered the rifle. Clara wanted to say something. "Thank you. Are you all right? I'm sorry." But before she could speak, her knees gave out. Cole caught her. "I got you." "I thought—" Clara couldn't finish. Couldn't put into words what she'd thought when she'd seen that torch. "I know, me too." He looked at the children. "Everyone all right?" They nodded, still wide-eyed and shaking. Nina was crying silently. Thomas had his arm around Samuel, holding him tight. "Class is dismissed," Claire managed to say. "Go home, carefully, stay together." They left quickly, whispering to each other. Clara watched them go, still leaning on Cole because she didn't trust her legs yet. "What happened at your place?" she asked. 3 men showed up, told me to stay put or they'd burn my house. I convinced them that was a bad idea." "You're bleeding." "So are they." Cole helped her to the steps, sat her down. "Clara, we can't keep doing this. Next time, Pike won't back down. Next time, someone's gonna die." "I know." "Then what do we do?" Clara looked at the school, at this building she'd built from nothing, at the place where 8 children came every day to learn, at the thing Pike hated enough to kill for, and suddenly she knew what she had to do. "I'm leaving," she said. Cole stared at her. "What?" "I'm leaving, packing up, taking the books and going." "You're giving up?" "No." Clara stood, legs steadier now. "I'm protecting them, the children, the families, you. As long as I'm here, Pike has a target. But if I leave, what's left to fight over? The school is just a building. The real school is the idea, and I can take that anywhere." Clara looked at him. "I'll go to Las Cruces or Santa Fe, somewhere bigger, where people like Pike don't run everything. I'll teach there. I'll build something there." "That's not the same." "No, but it's survival." Clara felt tears starting. "I can't watch those children get hurt because of me. I can't watch you get killed defending something I started. This was my fight, but I'm dragging everyone else into it, and that's not fair." Cole grabbed her shoulders. "Don't do this. Don't let him win." "He's already won, Cole. Look around. We're standing in ashes and blood, waiting for the next fire. That's not victory. That's just stubbornness killing us slowly. So you run. So I fight smarter. From somewhere I actually have a chance." Cole looked at her for a long moment. Then he let go and stepped back. "Fine, if that's what you want." "It's not what I want. It's what I have to do." "Then do it." He walked away before she could say anything else. Clara watched him go, feeling something break inside her chest. This was the right choice, the smart choice, the only choice that didn't end with someone dying. So why did it feel like surrender? She went inside the school and started packing. Clara packed slowly, touching each book like it was goodbye. The McGuffey reader with its worn cover, the arithmetic primer, the slate boards the children had learned their letters on. Every item held a memory. Nina reading her first full sentence, Samuel drawing horses in the margins, Thomas finally smiling when he solved a difficult problem. She worked through the afternoon, stacking books in crates, wrapping the slates in cloth, organizing everything for transport. The school felt empty already, like it knew she was leaving. Dust motes floated in the late sunlight. The room smelled like chalk and wood smoke and all the hope she'd poured into it. By evening, everything was packed except her bedroll. Clara sat on the floor surrounded by crates, too tired to cry, too numb to feel much of anything. Then she heard footsteps on the porch. Nina stood in the doorway, backlit by the setting sun. "Is it true? You're leaving?" Clara hadn't expected the children to find out so fast. "Yes." "Why?" "Because it's not safe anymore. For you, for your families, for anyone connected to this place." Nina walked inside, looked at the packed crates. "We don't care about safe." "You should." "Why? So we can go back to not knowing how to read? Back to being told we're not worth teaching?" Nina's voice cracked. "You gave us something, Miss Vance. You can't just take it away." "I'm not taking it away. You know how to read now. You know arithmetic. You have those things forever. But what about the others, the children who haven't learned yet? What about them?" Clara didn't have an answer for that. More footsteps. Thomas and Samuel appeared, then the other children. All 8 of them, crowding into the school, faces determined. "We heard," Thomas said, "the whole thing, about Pike and the torch, and you deciding to leave. Then you understand. We understand you're giving up." Clara flinched. "I'm not giving up. I'm being realistic. You're running away." "Thomas, you told us to stand for what's right. You told us education matters. You told us we're as good as anyone." His voice was shaking with emotion. "But the first time it gets really hard, you leave. What does that teach us?" "It teaches you that sometimes survival is more important than principle." "No." Nina stepped forward. "It teaches us that people like Pike always win, that fear is stronger than courage, that we should just accept our place and stop trying to be more." Clara stood, frustrated and hurting. "That's not fair. I've fought for you. I've risked everything." "Then risk a little more," Nina said quietly. "Please, we need you." Clara looked at their faces. These children who'd become so much more than students, who'd stood between her and Pike's torch, who'd defied their own fear because they believed in what she'd built. "If I stay, someone might die," Clara said. "Can you live with that?" "Can you live with leaving?" Thomas asked. The question hit harder than Clara expected. Could she? Could she really pack up and walk away, knowing these children would have nothing? Knowing Pike would have won? Knowing she'd let fear make her decision instead of conviction? She'd done that before, back in Philadelphia. Walked away when things got hard. Told herself it was the smart choice. And she'd regretted it every day since. "I don't know what else to do," Clara admitted. "I can't fight an entire town by myself." "You're not by yourself," a voice said from the doorway. Clara turned. Nina's father stood there, and behind him more parents, Thomas and Samuel's mother, the families of the other children, maybe 15 adults total. Nina's father stepped inside. His English was halting but clear. "We talk. All families. We decide. We want school to stay." "Mr. Tajay," Clara started, "you save my son from the storm. You teach my children when no one else will. You stand against men who hate us." He looked at her steadily. "Now we stand with you." Thomas's mother spoke next. "Our children read now, write, learn numbers. This is because of you. We will not let them take that away." One by one, the parents spoke, pledging support, promising to help defend the school, offering whatever they had, labor, supplies, watch shifts through the night. Clara felt tears starting. "They'll come after you too. Pike won't stop." "Let him come," Nina's father said. "We are tired of being afraid." Clara looked at these families who had so little but were willing to risk everything, at the children watching with desperate hope, at the school she'd built from nothing but stubbornness and borrowed land. Maybe running wasn't the answer. Maybe the answer was standing still and making Pike come to her, making him show the whole territory what he really was, a bully willing to hurt children to maintain control. "All right," Clara said, "I'll stay. But we do this differently. No more waiting for Pike to attack, we take the fight to him." "How?" Nina asked. Clara thought for a moment. Then it came to her. "We make this public. We go to the territorial governor, document everything, the fires, the threats, the intimidation. Make it official, force the law to choose sides." The sheriff already chose, Thomas pointed out. The sheriff's local. The governor isn't. He has to answer to more than just Red Hollow. Clara started pacing, the plan forming as she spoke. And we get witnesses. People from other towns, other territories. We make enough noise that Pike can't just burn us down and pretend it didn't happen. That will take time, Nina's father said. Then we buy time. We defend this school day and night. We make it clear that destroying it means going through all of us. Clara looked around. I won't lie, this is dangerous. This might end badly, but at least we'll be fighting instead of running. The parents looked at each other. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Then Nina's father nodded. We fight. The others echoed it. Even the children, standing taller now, faces set with determination. Clara felt something shift inside her. Not quite hope. Too much could still go wrong for that. But something close. Purpose, maybe. The certainty that this was the right choice, whatever happened next. Okay, she said. Then let's get to work. They spent the next 3 days preparing. The men built a proper fence around the school, tall and sturdy. They dug a well closer to the building so they'd have water if another fire started. They cleared brush that could catch sparks, reinforced the roof, created fire breaks. The women organized watch schedules. Someone would be at the school at all times, day and night. They brought supplies, food, blankets, tools, things they could barely spare but gave anyway. The children helped however they could, carrying water, stacking firewood, running messages between families. Samuel and the younger ones kept watch during the day while the older students practiced reading aloud. If riders came, the sound would stop and everyone would know. Cole showed up on the second day. Clara was hauling water when she saw him riding in. She set down the buckets, waiting. They hadn't spoken since she'd told him she was leaving, since he'd walked away angry. He dismounted, looked at the fence, the reinforced school, the organized chaos of families working together. You decided to stay, he said. I did. Why? Because running felt worse than staying. Cole nodded slowly. Good. Because I came to apologize for storming off like that, and to help. Clara felt relief wash through her. I thought you were done with me. I was angry, not done. He grabbed the water buckets she'd dropped. Where do these go? They worked side by side the rest of the day, not talking much, but not needing to. The silence between them felt different now, comfortable, easy, like they'd moved past something. That evening, after the others had gone home and the first watch shift had settled in, Cole and Clara sat by the fire outside the school. I sent a letter to the territorial governor, Clara said. Documented everything. The fires, Pike's threats, all of it. Don't know if he'll care, but at least there's a record. How long until you hear back? Could be weeks, could be never. Clara poked at the fire with a stick. In the meantime, we just have to hold on. And if Pike comes before then we make him regret it. Cole looked at her. You've changed, since that first day when your wagon broke down. You were scared then, uncertain. I'm still scared, and still uncertain. But you're not running. No, Claire agreed. Not anymore. Cole was quiet for a moment. Then he said, My brother Daniel. Before he died, he asked me to read to him. He loved stories, but I couldn't read well enough. Stumbled over words, lost my place. He died without hearing the end of his favorite story. Clara didn't speak, just listened. For years I hated myself for that, for not being able to give him that one small thing, and I swore if I ever got the chance to help someone else learn, I would. Cole looked at the school. That's what this is for me, a second chance, so thank you for giving me that. Clara reached over and took his hand. Thank you for helping me build it. They sat like that until the fire burned down to embers, hands linked, watching stars wheel overhead. Pike came 4 days later. Clara was teaching multiplication when the lookout, Peter's older sister, came running. Riders, maybe 30 of them. Clara stood, heart hammering. Children, into the back room, now. They moved quickly, practiced. She drilled them on this. If trouble came, they hid. They didn't fight, they didn't argue, they survived. The families who'd been working nearby grabbed tools, weapons, whatever they had. Cole appeared with his rifle. Nina's father and 3 other men took positions along the fence. The women gathered behind them, holding rocks, axes, anything that could be used if needed. Clara walked to the front of the school and waited. Pike rode in with even more men than before. 40, maybe 50. An actual mob. They surrounded the clearing, filling every gap, blocking every exit. Pike dismounted. He looked at the fence, the organized defense, the families standing together. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or respect. Then it hardened into resolve. "Miss Vance, you're still here." "I'm still here?" "I warned you multiple times, told you what would happen if you didn't leave." "You did. And I'm telling you now, I'm not leaving. Not today, not ever. This school stays open." "We'll see about that." Pike turned to his men. "Burn it down, all of it." The men started to move forward. Clara's defenders braced themselves. Cole raised his rifle. Then someone shouted from the road. A wagon rolled into view, followed by riders. Official-looking riders with badges. The territorial marshal at the lead, a hard-faced man in his 50s named Carson. Behind him, at least a dozen deputies. Everyone froze. Carson rode into the clearing, looked around at the scene, Pike's mob, the defensive positions, the school at the center of it all. His expression didn't change. "Walter Pike," he said, "lower your weapons, all of you." Pike's face went pale. "Marshal Carson, what are you doing here?" "Responding to a complaint filed with the territorial governor. Seems there's been some trouble out here. Fires, threats, intimidation of a lawful school." Carson dismounted, pulled out a paper. "I have a warrant for your arrest." "On what charges?" "Arson, destruction of property, conspiracy to commit violence." "Should I keep going?" The crowd murmured. Some of Pike's men were already backing away, not wanting to be associated with this anymore. "You can't prove any of that," Pike said, but his voice had lost its certainty. "Actually, I can. Got sworn statements from 3 witnesses who say you ordered the fires. Got testimony from families you threatened. Got Miss Vance's detailed account of every incident." Carson looked at Clara. "You keep good records, ma'am." Clara could barely believe what she was hearing. "The governor actually read my letter?" "He did. And he wasn't happy about what's been happening out here. Sent me to investigate and clean it up." Carson turned back to Pike. "You're done, Pike. Your days of running this territory like your personal kingdom are over." Pike looked around wildly like he was searching for escape, but his men were melting away, abandoning him. The crowd that had seemed so menacing minutes ago was disappearing like smoke. "This isn't over," Pike said weakly. "You can't just—" "I can, and I am." Carson gestured to his deputies. "Take him." They grabbed Pike, cuffed him, led him to a wagon. He went without fighting, looking smaller somehow, diminished. All that fury and certainty reduced to a middle-aged man being arrested for crimes he'd thought he'd never answer for. Carson walked over to Clara. "Miss Vance, I apologize for what you've been through. Should never have gotten this bad. It's not your fault. Partially it is. We knew Pike was causing trouble, but nobody wanted to confront him. Easier to look away." He glanced at the school. "You forced us to look. That took courage. Or stubbornness. Sometimes they're the same thing." Carson tipped his hat. "Your school's legal. Anyone tries to interfere with it, you let me know. We'll be keeping an eye on things out here from now on." "Thank you, Marshal." He nodded and rode out, taking Pike and his remaining men with him. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then someone started laughing, a relieved, slightly hysterical sound. Others joined in. Soon the whole clearing was filled with laughter and tears and people hugging each other. Clara just stood there, trying to process what had happened. It was over. Actually over. Pike was gone. The school was safe. They'd won. Cole walked up beside her. "You did it." "We did it," Clara corrected. "All of us." He smiled, a real smile this time, no bitterness or reservation. "Yeah, we did." The children came pouring out of the back room, shouting and celebrating. Nina threw her arms around Clara. Samuel grabbed her hand and wouldn't let go. Thomas actually laughed, the first time she'd heard that sound from him. Clara looked at them all, these families who'd stood with her, these children who'd believed in her, this place they'd built together. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't finished. There would be more challenges, more opposition, more struggles. But right now, in this moment, they'd proven something. That courage could outlast fear. That principle could stand against power. That a group of people who cared about something could actually change the world, even just a small piece of it. That night, they had a celebration. Nothing fancy, just families gathering around fires, sharing food, telling stories. The children ran wild, high on victory and relief. The adults talked quietly, making plans for the future. Clara sat with Cole at the edge of the gathering, watching it all. "What happens now?" Cole asked. "We teach. We learn. We keep building." "Just like that?" "Just like that." Clara looked at him. "And you? What are you going to do?" "Help you. If you'll let me." "I thought you didn't want to be a teacher." "I don't, but I'm pretty good at building things, and this—" He gestured at the school, the families, everything they'd created. "This is worth building." Clara smiled. "Then I'd be honored to have your help." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fires burn. Somewhere in the darkness, a child laughed. Someone started singing, an old song Clara didn't recognize, but that made people smile. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Teaching children who'd never had a chance before. Expanding the school. Maybe adding more buildings, more students, more teachers. Building something that could last beyond just her, beyond just this moment. But tonight, she let herself rest. Let herself feel the victory, small as it was. Let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she'd done something that mattered. Nina came over, sat down beside Clara. "Miss Vance, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "When it got hard, when you thought about leaving, what made you stay?" Clara thought about that. "You did. All of you. I couldn't walk away from people who believed in me more than I believed in myself." "I'm glad you stayed." "Me too." Nina leaned against her shoulder, and Clara put her arm around the girl. Across the fire, Samuel was showing Samuel's mother how to write her name in the dirt. Thomas was teaching one of the younger children how to count in English, the future unfolding in small moments. Cole stood, stretched. "I should check the perimeter, make sure everyone's settled for the night." "I'll come with you," Clara said. They walked the edge of the clearing together. The watchfires burned steady. The families had set up temporary camps, would stay through the night to celebrate, and then head home in the morning. Tomorrow the school would open again, properly this time. Without fear, without threats, just education, just hope. Just the simple act of teaching children that they mattered. Clara stopped at the school door, looked inside. The packed crates were still there, unopened now. She'd have to unpack them tomorrow, put the books back on the shelves, hang the slates, make the room ready for learning again. "You all right?" Cole asked. "Yeah, just thinking." "About?" "About how I almost gave this up, how close I came to walking away." "But you didn't." "No, I didn't." Clara turned to face him. "Thank you for believing in this, even when I didn't. You always believed in it. You just got tired." "I did. I am." She laughed softly. "But I'm the good kind of tired, the kind that comes from building something real." Cole stepped closer. In the firelight, his face was softer than she'd ever seen it. "Clara, I need to tell you something." "What?" He stopped, seemed to struggle with the words, then, "I care about you. Not just about the school or the children or the principle of the thing, about you, and I need you to know that before anything else happens." Clara's heart stuttered. "Cole, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know." But Clara was smiling. "I care about you too. Have for a while now. I just didn't know how to say it." "Yeah?" "Yeah." He kissed her then, soft and careful, like he was afraid she might break. Clara kissed him back, feeling something settle into place inside her chest. Not love, not yet, but the beginning of it, the possibility. When they pulled apart, Cole was grinning. "So, what happens now?" "Now we build a future," Clara said. "Together." "Together," he agreed. They walked back to the celebration hand in hand. The fires burned bright, the children played, the families sang, and in the small school at the edge of the clearing, empty slates waited to be filled with new lessons, new words, new possibilities. Clara looked at it all, this impossible, improbable thing they'd created, and felt something she hadn't felt in years: peace. 3 months later, the school had doubled in size. Not the building, though Cole had added another room, but the students. 23 children now came every day, Apache and white, and mixed families who'd heard about the school and wanted their children to have a chance. Clara had to split them into 2 groups, younger students in the morning, older ones in the afternoon. Nina helped teach the little ones their letters, while Clara worked with the older children on composition and history. Thomas, it turned out, had a gift for mathematics and helped tutor the students who struggled. Cole had built desks, proper ones, and donated money for more books. Other families contributed what they could. Sarah's mother sewed curtains for the windows. Peter's father carved a sign that hung over the door: Red Hollow School, everyone welcome. The territorial governor had sent an official commendation recognizing the school as a legitimate educational institution. The marshal checked in once a month, making sure there was no more trouble. Pike was in prison, awaiting trial on multiple charges. His influence in Red Hollow had evaporated. A new mayor had been elected, a shopkeeper named Davies who believed education benefited everyone. It wasn't perfect. Some families still refused to send their children. Some people in town still muttered about Clara and her mixed school. But the opposition was quieter now, less certain of itself. Clara stood in the doorway one afternoon, watching her students work on arithmetic problems. Nina was helping Samuel with subtraction. Thomas was lost in a book about astronomy. A white girl named Margaret was teaching an Apache boy named John how to spell his name. Different children, different backgrounds, different futures. But in this room, they were the same. They were students. They were capable. They mattered. Cole walked up behind her, put his hand on her shoulder. "Good day?" "The best kind," Clara said. "The normal kind." "Normal's pretty remarkable considering where we started." "It is." Clara turned to face him. "Thank you. For everything. For believing when I didn't. For standing with me when it got hard. You would have done it without me." "Maybe, but I'm glad I didn't have to." Cole kissed her forehead. "Me too." They stood together, watching the future take shape one lesson at a time. It wasn't the revolution Clara had once imagined. It was smaller, quieter, less dramatic. But it was real. And it was lasting. That evening, after the students had gone home, Clara sat at her desk and wrote a letter. Not to the governor this time. To herself. A record of what had happened here. Of how a broken wagon and a stubborn woman and a landowner who'd learned to care had built something that mattered. She wrote about the children who'd stood between her and Pike's torch. About the families who'd risked everything to defend a school. About Cole, who'd found a way to honor his brother's memory by helping others learn. And she wrote about herself, about learning that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the choice to keep going despite it. That change happened slowly, one mind at a time, one lesson at a time. That sometimes the most revolutionary thing you could do was simply refuse to give up. When she finished, Clara folded the letter and tucked it into her desk drawer. Maybe someday someone would read it and understand what had happened here. Or maybe it would just gather dust, another forgotten story in a territory full of them. Either way, she'd lived it. That was enough. Clara stood, walked to the door, looked out at the land she'd come to love, the creek running silver in the moonlight, the hills rolling away into darkness, the sky full of stars that didn't care about human struggles but witnessed them anyway. Somewhere out there, other teachers were fighting their own battles. Other students were learning despite opposition. Other people were building things that mattered against impossible odds. Clara hoped they succeeded. Hoped they found the strength to keep going when it got hard. Hoped they remembered that every small victory mattered, even when the war seemed endless. But right now, in this moment, she had her own small victory to celebrate. A school that would open again tomorrow. Students who would learn. A future that was a little brighter than the past. And that, Clara thought as she locked the door and headed home, was exactly enough. The school stood solid against the night. Inside, books waited on shelves, slates hung clean and ready, chalk sat in boxes ready to write new lessons. And tomorrow, when the sun came up, children would come running, ready to learn, ready to grow, ready to become whoever they wanted to be, because Clara Vance had built them a place where that was possible. And nothing, not fear, not hatred, not all the Walter Pikes in the world, could take that away.